King of the Hill, a show I really like a lot because of its good writing and more or less down-to-earth attitude and old-fashioned values. It's a lot more simpler than a lot of the other shows that came out for adults in animation, and it just reminds me of a simpler time, more or less, since it came out in the late 90s and ran through the 2000s, which was basically when I was a kid. And for me, things were simpler, I think, for all of us, especially right now. I have been binge watching this lately. I decided to go through episode by episode to kind of talk about it. So let's start off with episode 1, which is just a pilot. So this episode starts off with them bringing Bobby to a baseball game, of which he gets hit in the face with a ball when he is on base. When Hank gets angry in a megalomart, people realize he has a temper and thinks that he actually hit Bobby himself, leading to the whole plot of a social worker coming out and trying to find evidence that Hank is abusive and take Bobby away, which basically leads to how do I explain it? The investigation. I'm just trying to sum it up quickly and calmly. The investigation, it leads nowhere because he didn't talk to the baseball coach. And then Bobby finds out that it's over, but doesn't tell Hank, so he can get away with to do whatever he wants. Then he tells the truth at the end. So basically wraps up there. That's just a footnote version of the episode. So this is a good episode. There's really not many bad episodes of this show, or what I consider bad. We'll get down the line of the series, but my least favorite episodes are probably the Manger Baby episodes because I find them godly annoying. But this is a pretty good episode, and actually a really good pilot. I don't really see many shows where the pilot is as good as this one, really, where it's like one I can watch just like as a regular episode. Usually when I binge watch shows, I'm like, okay, I'll have to sit through the pilot. Then it starts getting a little bit better. Some shows I actually sit through, I'm like, okay, first season's gonna be rough, but it'll even out as it goes on. They do pretty well with this. You can still see the cruder art style and sound editing, like in Beavis and Butthead, which was Mike Judge's show before this. But you can see it's starting to take its own distinct style with King of the Hill instead of that, but it's still very crude, like it's on MTV. So there is some parts in this episode that actually do make me laugh, though. I'll talk about this right off the bat. The beginning of the episode, Hank talks about George W. Bush vomiting in Japan. George Bush vomiting in Japan. This is actually based off of a real event that happened. I actually looked it up when he said that. A lot of their jokes are usually based off a real event, but are slightly tweaked a little bit to not be exactly like it. And there's a big one coming up later in the series about Weird Al Yankovic, talking about how he blew his brains out in the 80s. I don't think it's in this episode. I'm trying to think back of when I watched it. It's in a later one. And it's actually loosely based off of another parody songwriter that did blow his brains out in the 80s. He just confused the two. That's why I read online anyway. There, in the beginning, it starts with the classic, line of yips. Yep, mm-hmm. And the one thing that kind of dates this episode is they talk about Seinfeld. But that's not a bad thing. I like Seinfeld. So that's not a bad thing. It's just that's one thing you can say, that you can show that kind of dates this episode. I mean, every show's kind of dated in its own light, but this one, that's the main thing that sticks out here to me. There's some jokes in this episode that make me laugh really hard, like the Dale talking about global warming, where he talks about they're going to grow oranges in Alaska, and Hank said that it already gets 110 in Texas, and if it gets 1 degree hotter, it'll kick his ass. And my other favorite part of this episode, I think, is when... Oh, God, there's cops outside. We get a lot of sirens in my area. My other favorite part of the episode, obviously Dale's a riot on this show, is when he tries to work on Hank's truck when he's not around, and he snips his brake cable, and it runs into the garage, and they all scramble away. Some things that are interesting in this episode, I do like the scene with Hank throwing a fit at the Megalomart, because I think we've all been in this situation with an incompetent employee. I'm not saying all of them are. Don't attack me. I understand there's a strong base of people who work retail that go against people like that, but I'm talking about the few times that you actually do get into somebody that is very fucking stupid, that can barely do their job. I think we've all hit one of those people once or twice in our life. Like, we all have known that moment, especially at those big retail stores. In this episode, they already do a good job kind of showing Hank's old-fashioned values and his character, with him getting kind of offended at Bobby's cassette he's playing with the prank phone calls that have farting noises on them. And the other thing I like that he says in this episode is when Bobby says that the pitcher could walk him in baseball, he says, "Don't play lawyer ball." And I think that's a good Hank quote for him. It really kind of shows the development of his character. The only thing I really don't like in this episode is Bobby is kind of an asshole at the end, because he takes advantage of Hank being afraid that, protective services are going to break apart their family. And I know he says, he thought that his dad didn't love him and all that stuff. I think he really used that as an excuse, because some of the stuff he does in this episode is just annoying. I really don't like him in this episode that much. That's one of my downfalls of the episode. I get really annoyed at that. And also, I forgot to mention, this is actually the first instance they hint at Nancy having an affair with John Redcorn in one scene, when the social worker goes down around and talks to the neighbors, and you see her go out with them, and they talk about that a little bit. So that's one little interesting aspect. I've seen they actually plan ahead a lot in this show, which is kind of interesting to me, because when you watch it alone, it feels very episodic. But when you watch it all together, it does feel like a small little series. And the other thing I like on this episode is, because of the misunderstanding, I love how they kind of portray bureaucracy getting involved. And as someone who's dealt with a lot of people and a lot of people with the government like that, I've had social workers come visit me because of my mental health issues, and it's nothing bad, just like checkups and stuff after I go to counselors and stuff like that. It's just sometimes they can get annoying how they get interfering in your life. I don't know if there's actually, I wouldn't say government people, I'm just saying in general, like social workers I've had to see before and stuff like that when I was younger. And even when I was younger, I felt like, I'm like, these people are interfering a lot in my life right now, and I don't like it. I'm not a people person, so I always hated that. But I know they're just doing their job. I have mental health issues, a lot with depression and anxiety, and they just wanted to make sure I was doing okay. But I just hated having people come in my home like that. I always have. So I understand where Hank's coming from in this episode a lot with that stuff. And I've noticed little jokes they throw in there about that. Like one thing, he says in the episode when Hank starts getting kind of loud, the social worker says loud is not allowed. I never really experienced that with a social worker, but counselors like to use little phrases like that all the time, and they kind of annoy me. Personally, I really don't like stuff like that. So I understand some of the jokes on that, where they like make little phrases and stuff like that. And the one joke I laugh at all the time from dealing with counselors is the part where he asked Hank, "Have you ever hit your son?" And Hank says no. And you see him write out like half a page or something. He goes, "What are you writing? I just said no. It's one word." And it's something that I see with counselors all the time, where I give a one-word answer, and they just start scribbling down half a page of shit. And I'm like, what the fuck are you writing? I can see. So they do sneak in some good humor with that. And just stuff about the misunderstanding about it, about how if that things can easily get misconstrued over time, just from gossip and shit like that. I don't have any personal experience with that, but I know the story, how the story goes. We've all heard the cautionary tales and stuff. It's the same thing every time. Gossip's bad. It leads to crap like this. So yeah, it's a good episode. Kind of crude though. It's like I said, it's the beginning of the series. The early episodes are very crude though, like with the drawing, the animation, and some of the audio is a little bit off-putting because they don't really have it centered out yet, like they do later in the series. That's not a bad thing. I'm just like kind of pointing out the pros and cons. I'd probably give it probably a 78, which is a passing grade, but not perfect. It's a good episode. It's not bad. There is some stuff I don't like about it, but it's still a good episode. Like I said, I really don't hate any episode of King of the Hill that much. I really don't. I'm gonna try to make I'm gonna go through them all at the end and rank all of them. So these numbers, I'm gonna say 78 out of 100 right here. They're gonna come back, and I'm gonna try to rank them all. And it's gonna be hard for the bottom 10, I think. But I think the top 10 is going to be hard too because, again, it's going to be hard to find my favorite episode of this show. It's a great show, and I know a lot of people out there will know what I'm talking about. It is a great show. Like I said, I think this is my favorite animated sitcom of all time. It literally never really hit seasonal rot. It was good till the end. There's very few episodes that annoy me, and none that I will not watch. Every TV show, there's usually an episode I don't watch. I don't watch even though I don't really watch Family Guy anymore, I'll say the one that really turned me off was Trump Guy. Not just because of my political views, but because it's such lazy humor. You can do Donald Trump humor done right, even though I'm a Trump supporter, and I'll still laugh, but it was so lazy in that episode. And the other one that I can think of off the top of my head is The Simpsons with Lisa Goes Gaga. I will not watch that episode because it is just that bad to me. It's just annoying. And that's what I'm talking about. When there's episodes of shows I will not watch because they're that annoying to me. King of the Hill doesn't really have those. And I'm very glad of that because it is a really good series. So, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you.